Before we dive in, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories coming and helps this channel reach more sci-fi fans. Now settle in because this chapter is where everything begins. Ethan Varrick stepped off the shuttle ramp with the uneasy awareness that every pair of alien eyes in Fort Karak was already judging him. The air tasted metallic, humming with the energy of distant reactors and the weight of old battles. He had seen outposts before, dusty frontier stations where miners drank recycled water and called it luxury, but nothing prepared him for the Iron Banner Compact's forward base. It loomed like a fortress carved from burned steel and bad memories, scarred by weapons he couldn't even name. He clutched his duffel bag a little tighter. First human rookie ever accepted into the compact. A point of pride, the recruiter had said. A point of concern, the sergeants had muttered. A point of comedy, the mercenaries now openly expressed. Which one is it? A gravelly voice croaked from somewhere behind the weapons crates. The pink-skinned softling? No armor plating. No claws. No venom sacs. Must be him. Ethan ignored the snickers and kept walking. Frontier life taught him that reacting only fed the wolves, real or metaphorical. He wasn't sure which kind these mercenaries preferred. A 7-foot reptilian stepped forward, blocking the entrance to the training hall. His scales were old and battle-faded, a dull bronze cracked by time and war. Sergeant Ralmore. Ethan recognized him instantly from the dossier. Veteran of 11 campaigns, zero tolerance for incompetence, rumored to have thrown a recruit out an airlock, though Ethan hoped that part was exaggeration. Ralmore sniffed the air like a predator evaluating prey. You're the human. Yes, sir. You look fragile. Most things do until they're under pressure, Ethan said before he could stop himself. A ripple of amusement spread through the watching mercenaries. Ralmore didn't smile, but something flickered in his slitted eyes. Annoyance, maybe interest. Hard to tell. You will complete the hazard survival trial, Ralmore said. If you fail, you leave. If you die, you die. If you live, perhaps we will call you recruit. Ethan nodded, swallowing the heat rising in his throat. He expected this. The compact didn't give out respect. It made you bleed for it. Ralmore stepped aside. Gear up. You deploy in 10. Inside the hall, a holographic map displayed the broken wasteland of the planet below, Karak 3. A dead world. Once lush, now reduced to jagged canyons and shadowed valleys by a war most species refused to talk about. The mercenaries gathered around the map pointed at zones marked with red symbols. Old hunting grounds, collapsed fortresses, and deeper, darker regions tagged with warning glyphs. One of the Mercs, a lanky amphibian with too many teeth, tapped a claw on a blinking icon. Drakthuan territory. Supposedly extinct. Still swear I heard one howl down there last cycle. His companion snorted. Everything howls if you listen long enough. Drakthuan. Ethan had heard the stories. Apex predators so dangerous entire battalions once refused assignments near their nesting cliffs. Officially wiped out after orbital cleansing strikes, unofficially the nightmare species every Merc loved to exaggerate. He checked his gear. Ration bars, med kit, flare gun, tracking beacon, shock baton, breathing mask. Light equipment, barely enough for an afternoon stroll, much less a survival test. But complaining wouldn't change anything. The dropship carried them down in a shuddering descent. Ethan sat alone while the other rookies, 3 aliens from species he only vaguely recognized, muttered about assignments, odds of survival, and side bets. Every time someone's gaze drifted toward him, the tone shifted to amusement or disbelief. The ship landed on a plateau overlooking a canyon maze. The air outside was dry and thin, carrying the scent of cracked stone and something older, deeper, almost feral. The rookies filed out as the instructor barked orders. Ethan stepped into the harsh sunlight, shielding his eyes. Head north, the instructor said. Find the marked beacon. Avoid the crevasse network. And if you see movement in the shadows, don't investigate. The ship lifted off, leaving them alone with echoing wind. Ethan moved quickly, scanning the canyon walls for loose stone or unstable ledges. The others immediately drifted away from him, no doubt eager to avoid being associated with the human liability. Fine by him. He worked better alone anyway. Half an hour in, he felt it, a low vibration in the ground, faint but rhythmic. Not footsteps. Something heavier. Something deliberate. He froze, listening. There it was again. A deep, resonant growl carried by the wind. Ethan's pulse spiked. Drakthuan? Impossible. Extinct. The Mercs insisted on it. The planetary scans proved it. But the sound came again, unmistakably alive. He should turn back. Report the anomaly. follow protocol. Instead, he took a cautious step forward. Maybe frontier instincts were stronger than reason. Growing up around wolves and ridge cats taught him to recognize the language of predators. The warning, the curiosity, the hunger. This growl wasn't a threat, not yet. More like a question. He descended a sloping path until the canyon bed opened into a wide clearing scattered with broken stone pillars. Shadows pooled between them, thick and tangled. The air felt charged like breathing electricity. A shape detached from the darkness. Massive shoulders. Hooked claws. Eyes reflecting the amber sun like molten metal. Scars slashed across its flank, old and healed hard, signs of battles no living creature should have survived. A Dracthuan. Alive. It stood 3 times his height, muscles rippling beneath obsidian hide, each breath sending dust swirling. Its gaze fixed on him, unblinking, assessing. Ethan's mind screamed at him to run, but his body locked in place. The predator lowered its head, drawing in his scent. Its growl softened into something almost curious. Ethan slowly raised his hands, palms open. Frontier wolves responded to posture more than anything else. Predators respected calm. They punished panic. The Dracthuan stepped closer. His legs trembled despite every effort to steady them. The creature's breath washed over him, hot, ancient, tinged with iron and earth. It could kill him in an instant. Everyone in the compact would say he deserved it for wandering off. Another rumble rolled from its chest. Not anger. Recognition. Ethan swallowed hard. "I'm not here to hurt you," he whispered. The creature tilted its head as if listening. A sudden crack split the air, stone collapsing somewhere above. The Dracthuan's gaze snapped upward. Its muscles coiled. Ethan turned just in time to see a boulder breaking loose from the canyon wall, tumbling straight toward him. He dove aside too late. The shadow engulfed him. And the apex predator moved. Ethan hit the ground hard, scraping his shoulder on jagged stone, but before the boulder could crush him, a massive shadow slammed into it, sending shards of rock spraying in every direction. The Dracthuan, muscles rippling beneath its obsidian hide, had intercepted the boulder with its shoulder, twisting the debris harmlessly aside. Ethan rolled to his feet, heart hammering as the creature's amber eyes fixed on him again. It didn't roar. It didn't advance. It simply watched, breathing heavily as if deciding whether this fragile human was a threat, or something else entirely. He swallowed the lump in his throat and extended a hand slowly, remembering the lessons of his childhood on frontier worlds, when wolves and ridge cats had taught him patience and respect. "It's okay," he whispered, voice trembling despite his attempt at calm. "I don't want to hurt you." The predator's ears flicked, muscles tensing and relaxing in a subtle rhythm. It lowered its head slightly, sniffing the air around him. Ethan noticed the scars across its flank, deep and jagged, evidence of battles fought and survived. He realized with a jolt that this creature, long thought extinct, had endured countless threats and yet now stood before him, assessing a human with something that resembled curiosity. Gently, Ethan moved closer, keeping his posture low and non-threatening. His hand hovered near the jagged tear in the creature's hide. He could see dried blood and a shard of metal embedded in its flank. Survival instincts surged. He could help it or he could retreat and leave it to suffer. He chose the former, carefully pressing his fingers against the wound. The Dracthuan flinched, then froze, allowing the contact. Each second stretched longer than a minute, yet no aggression followed, only an intense, almost intelligent focus. "I'm Ethan," he murmured as though the introduction mattered. The creature shifted slightly, its massive head tilting as though considering his words. With deliberate precision he worked the shard loose, wincing as the beast flinched again, but it didn't snap or strike. It simply endured, patience beyond comprehension. When the metal finally fell to the ground, Ethan stepped back, heart pounding, and the Dracthuan lowered its body, pressing its weight to the ground in what felt like a gesture of trust. A shiver ran through him. The creature wasn't just observing, it was recognizing. Suddenly, movement flickered at the edge of his vision. The compact surveillance drones hovered above the canyon rim, broadcasting the live feed back to Fort Karak. The other rookies, scattered across the plateau, froze mid-step, unaware of the unfolding scene. Back at the fort, monitors lit up with shocked reactions. One veteran reptilian muttered, "It's alive, and it's not attacking him." Another clawed his scalp in disbelief. Sergeant Ralmore's eyes narrowed, jaw tightening. He raised a claw, but the commanding officer's voice cut through the comms. "Observe. Do not engage. This behavior is unprecedented." Ethan knew he had mere moments to decide. Retreat would signal weakness. aggression would guarantee death. He took a slow step backward, testing the predator's reaction. It followed, pacing him with uncanny synchronization, maintaining a distance but never breaking eye contact. Each careful movement built an unspoken dialogue between them, a silent agreement that neither sought harm. He realized then that the Dracthuan wasn't just responding to instinct, it was analyzing, learning, adapting to him. When he finally turned to leave the canyon bed, the beast followed, matching his pace. Ethan allowed a faint grin. "You're coming with me," he said, almost laughing at the absurdity. He expected fear, maybe a snap of teeth, but instead, the predator's tail swept the dust in a deliberate, measured rhythm, a silent acknowledgement. He decided on a name, one that suited its shadowed presence and quiet ferocity. "Ghost," he whispered. "You're Ghost now." The return to Fort Karak was tense. Every step echoed across the rocky plateau. Ethan kept his hands visible, shoulders relaxed, speaking softly. Ghost trailed silently, enormous paws leaving shallow impressions in the stone. Other mercs scattered at the sight, drawing weapons instinctively, only to pause at the uncanny calm the predator maintained. Cameras recorded every step, and the data feed sparked heated debate at the fort. Scientists, veterans and rookies alike watched footage that defied every known record. An apex predator, declared extinct, walking unthreateningly beside a human. By the time they reached the shuttle landing zone, Ethan was both exhilarated and drained. Ghost paused at the edge of the plateau, sniffing the air, muscles coiled for instant reaction, yet obediently following his subtle signals. Ethan crouched beside him, examining the creature's flank. The wound was serious, but the metal shard had been removed cleanly. "We'll get you patched up," he said, pressing a ration pack to the wound as a temporary measure. The predator leaned into the touch, eyes half closed, a gesture that bordered on trust, even affection. Ralmore approached, claws flexing tensely. Ethan could feel the veteran's suspicion radiating off him like heat. "I told you," Ralmore said, voice low, almost a growl. "You won't survive long out here." Ethan met his gaze steadily. "Maybe I won't. But I think Ghost will." For the first time, Ralmore's expression softened, though only slightly. Respect, tempered by wariness, flickered in his slitted eyes. Even the other mercs, who had mocked Ethan's human fragility all morning, fell silent, uncertain whether to fear the creature or the bond it shared with its unlikely companion. The medics examined Ghost carefully. Ethan explained the shard, the wound, the encounter. They murmured between themselves, astonishment heavy in their tones. One scientist adjusted a scanner, whispering to a colleague, "Behavioral patterns like this, unprecedented. Dracthuan are intelligent predators, yes, but this level of recognition? Bonding? Impossible." Ethan's chest swelled with cautious pride. Ghost, despite being the size of a small building and capable of terrifying destruction, lay near him quietly, chest rising and falling in a measured rhythm. By nightfall, Ghost rested outside Ethan's bunk, a silent sentinel under the artificial lights of Fort Karak. Ethan lay on the narrow cot, listening to the low rumble of the predators breathing through the reinforced wall. The other rookies avoided the area, whispers of fear and disbelief trailing after them. Ethan realized that what had begun as mockery might be transforming into something else: respect. Or at least acknowledgement of his unique position. Outside, wind swept across the rocky plateau, carrying faint echoes of ancient howls, perhaps of others long thought gone. Ethan stared at the ceiling, mind racing. He didn't yet understand the full weight of the situation. A predator declared extinct, now bonded with a human rookie, standing as both shield and sword. The Compact would not accept this easily. Stories like this didn't survive, they made legends. And legends were dangerous. Tomorrow he would face training, missions, and doubt from every corner of the fort. But tonight Ghost was here. Alive. Watching. Waiting. And Ethan understood, with a quiet certainty that both terrified and thrilled him, that he had just crossed the threshold into something far larger than any rookie trial. He closed his eyes, feeling the tremor of a heartbeat not entirely his own, and let himself hope. The predator had chosen him. And the galaxy, unknowingly, was about to watch. The morning sun burned across the plateau, sharp and relentless, casting long shadows over the rocky sprawl of Fort Karak. Ethan adjusted the straps of his gear, feeling the weight of both expectation and the strange, heavy presence beside him. Ghost padded silently, each step deliberate, eyes scanning the horizon as if it already understood threats he could not yet see. The other mercenaries gave them wide berth, murmuring among themselves. A human surviving in the Compact was improbable. A human with a bonded apex predator was unimaginable. Ethan let them whisper. Their doubt fueled him more than their approval ever could. Training began with a familiar ritual: obstacle courses, marksmanship, and hand-to-hand combat drills designed to separate rookies from the herd. Ethan's performance had been deliberately underestimated, and today that misjudgment worked in his favor. Ghost followed from a distance, invisible to most sensors, yet mirroring Ethan's movements with uncanny precision. When he stumbled over loose stone or misjudged a jump, Ghost adjusted its stride to shield him, shifting instinctively as if anticipating his next falter. Observers gasped, muttering that no human, or even experienced alien, moved with such a coordinated shadow. Realmore grunted, skeptical, yet something in his eyes had changed. Respect, tentative and grudging, began to seep in. The veteran reptilian had been ready to dismiss Ethan entirely, but the display of natural synergy forced acknowledgement. Ethan thrived in terrain others found perilous: jagged cliffs, loose boulders, narrow ledges. Ghost's presence amplified his capabilities, not by brute force alone, but by an almost preternatural awareness of danger and timing. Every move they made together seemed choreographed, though no signal passed between them beyond the unspoken understanding of predator and companion. The first confrontation came sooner than expected. A Red Fang scout team, notorious for sabotage during rookie trials, crested a ridge ahead. 3 mercenaries, armed with pulse rifles and reinforced armor, had underestimated the canyon's terrain. Ethan froze, evaluating options, but Ghost already tensed, muscles coiling like springs. Without hesitation, the predator lunged, a blur of shadow and power, knocking the first attacker off his feet with a single swipe. The other 2 spun, firing wildly. Ethan sprinted forward, baton in hand, intercepting the closest attack with precision he had only discovered through instinct in months of minor skirmishes on the frontier. The fight was short but brutal. Ghost moved with terrifying intelligence, herding the intruders like livestock and separating them long enough for Ethan to disarm and incapacitate one, then another. By the time the last scout scrambled to flee, both predator and human stood at the top of the ridge, breathing hard, triumphant. The surrounding rookies gawked, some pale, some muttering prayers in languages Ethan didn't recognize. Drones recorded everything, and Ethan knew the footage would reach Fort Karak within the hour. Today, the mockery that had followed him since arrival would be tempered with awe. Realmore approached, claws flexing in assessment. "You're effective," he admitted, voice low, still tinged with disbelief. Ethan merely nodded, letting the moment linger. He didn't need praise. Ghost nudged his shoulder, a silent affirmation of the bond that had grown in mere hours yet felt timeless. The veteran studied the predator with a critical eye, noting the injuries it had sustained earlier. He gave a short, grudging nod. Respect earned was better than laughter or scorn. In the quiet aftermath, Ethan and Ghost moved deeper into the canyon to investigate the unusual heat signatures detected during the morning scan. Sensors had registered multiple life forms, unidentified, likely hostile, and potentially catastrophic if left unchecked. As they descended, Ethan noticed patterns in the terrain: flattened underbrush, faint scratches along the rock faces, and tufts of coarse hair. The signs were subtle but unmistakable to a trained eye. Ghost paused, ears flicking, nostrils flaring. The creature's tail swept along the ground, brushing aside debris as if reading invisible messages. They reached a narrow ravine where movement shifted in the shadows. Ethan crouched low, signaling Ghost to remain calm. The predator's gaze locked onto a heat signature approaching from above. Ethan recognized the tactics immediately: ambush. Red Fang operatives, emboldened by prior victories and unaware of Ghost's presence, intended to trap him. The canyon's natural acoustics amplified their chatter, giving away every step. Ethan's mind raced. He calculated angles, distances, and timing, using Ghost's heightened instincts as an extension of his own senses. When the ambush sprung, Ghost reacted instantly, leaping across a stone ledge and colliding with the nearest operative. The force sent the mercenary sprawling, disarming him without permanent injury. Ethan rolled, striking with precision and skill he had never possessed before this day. Each movement was mirrored by Ghost's own, seamless and terrifying in its effectiveness. By the time the final ambusher retreated, the ravine lay silent. Dust hung in the air, catching sunlight in shimmering clouds. Ethan breathed heavily, heart racing, and Ghost lowered its head, brushing his arm with its massive snout in a gesture of quiet reassurance. He realized then that the lesson had been mutual. Survival required more than skill or weaponry; it demanded understanding, trust, and instinct. Returning to the fort, the footage of the confrontation already circulated. Mercenaries whispered in corridors, many refraining from direct contact but unable to hide their newfound respect. Even the rookies who had mocked him earlier glanced with uncertainty, recognizing that the human and his predator companion had rewritten what was possible in the compact. Ethan didn't seek recognition. He focused on Ghost, who remained poised and alert, scanning the skies for potential threats. The bond between them had solidified, unspoken yet absolute. In the moments of quiet, Ethan reflected on what had changed. He had entered the compact expecting danger and ridicule, but he had found partnership and loyalty, though in a form he had never imagined. The predator, once thought extinct, had chosen him, and that choice carried a weight and responsibility he could not ignore. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting the canyon in a spectrum of gold and crimson, Ethan allowed himself a moment to imagine the challenges ahead. Sensors now indicated multiple life forms below, signs of more Drakhthuan, perhaps, or unknown threats emerging from the dead world. The stakes had escalated beyond rookie trials and Red Fang sabotage. What lay ahead would demand courage, cunning, and a bond stronger than any mercenary protocol. Ghost rested its massive head against Ethan's shoulder, warm and alive, an anchor in the harsh canyon winds. Ethan knew the compact would soon test him in ways no rookie had faced. But tonight he allowed a rare thought. Maybe humans, fragile as they were in comparison to alien mercenaries and apex predators, could endure. Maybe, with trust and instinct, they could even thrive. The canyon was quiet, but the echoes of ancient life lingered in the shadows. Ethan clenched his fists, feeling the rhythm of Ghost's pulse beneath his arm. Tomorrow would bring trials, ambushes, and challenges that could break him. But tonight, he and his predator companion had rewritten the rules. And the galaxy, unwitting and impatient, had yet to see what the human rookie and the apex predator could accomplish together. Ethan awoke to the muted hum of Fort Karak's environmental systems, Ghost lying vigilantly outside his bunk. The previous day's ambush replayed endlessly in his mind. Red Fang operatives, reckless and overconfident, had underestimated him and almost paid the price. Now, sensors had detected multiple heat signatures on the dead world below, clustered near a canyon network previously marked as uninhabited. The readings were irregular, almost pulsating, suggesting life forms that didn't belong to any known species. Ralmore arrived moments later, his movements precise, predatory even in repose. "Recon team assembling," he said, voice low but firm. "You human and your friend." His eyes flicked toward Ghost, then back to Ethan. "You're staying with us. No improvisation. Understand?" "Yes, sir," Ethan replied, adjusting the straps on his tactical vest. The words sounded mechanical, but inside, his mind raced. Ghost stirred at the command, muscles coiling beneath its hide, ears twitching. The predator was attuned, instinctively sensing the tension in the air, and already scanning for danger that hadn't yet manifested. The dropship departed the fort with quiet efficiency, cutting through the thin atmosphere toward the canyon cluster below. Ethan crouched near the edge, peering through binoculars as the landscape unfolded. Once thought lifeless, the deep gorges revealed hidden networks of caves and ledges, shadows crawling with motion. Ghost growled softly, a low vibration that resonated through the reinforced floor, and Ethan stiffened. The readings had been correct. Life existed here, and it was neither dormant nor passive. Ralmore issued his commands. "Split the recon into 2 teams. You and I take the west entrance. Observe, gather data. No engagement unless necessary. Ghost stays with you." He emphasized the last part with a glance at the predator. Ethan's chest tightened. This was no longer a simple scouting mission. Whatever lay in these canyons had survived orbital strikes, evaded every sensor, and endured centuries of hunting. They descended into the canyon on hover lifts, each moment bringing them closer to the unknown. Ethan felt the ground beneath him, the dust and stone, and marveled at the ecosystem surviving in secret. Ghost's ears flicked constantly, tail sweeping across loose rock to detect subtle vibrations. The creature's presence was more than protection. It was intelligence, reflex, and instinct intertwined with his own decisions. The west entrance to the cave network opened into a shadowed corridor, walls etched with jagged striations and deep grooves. Ethan noticed patterns of claw marks along the stone, evidence of movement too large for any standard predator. He scanned with a handheld device, detecting multiple life forms, each reading larger than Ghost in mass. His stomach tightened. There were dozens of them, and the patterns suggested organized hunting or defensive behavior. "Not extinct," Ethan whispered under his breath, voice reverent. "They've been here all along." Ralmore's tail flicked in acknowledgement. And someone wanted them gone. Deliberately. The veteran reptilian's eyes were hard, calculating. These weren't natural extinctions. Someone destroyed habitats, spread false reports, claimed orbital strikes as a kill. The first ambush came suddenly. Red Fang operatives, heavily armed and moving fast, cut across the cavern's edge. Weapons fire rang out, echoing violently. Ghost reacted instantly, coiling its body before launching forward, intercepting attackers with precision and power that defied the laws of physics, or any mercenary's imagination. Ethan drew his baton and dove into the fray, disarming one operative while using the rocky terrain to his advantage. The predator's coordination was instinctive: flank, pin, herd, and neutralize. Ethan's mind operated in split seconds, reading the environment, predicting enemy movements, and adjusting his tactics in perfect harmony with Ghost's actions. One operative charged with a pulse rifle. Ghost lunged first, knocking him off balance. Ethan rolled, striking with the baton, incapacitating the target. Another fired from a ledge. Ghost leaped, claws extended, intercepting the shot with a crash that sent stone fragments scattering. By the end, Red Fang operatives were retreating, wounded and demoralized, while Ethan and Ghost stood at the cavern center, breathing hard, victorious yet fully aware this confrontation was only a prelude. Ralmor approached, expression unreadable, claws flexing. Your bond with that creature, it's not tactical. It's symbiotic. You survive because of it, and because of you. Take note, no human has ever moved with such precision alongside a Dracthuan. Ethan swallowed, chest still pounding, and nodded. Respect had finally taken root where mockery had once thrived. As they advanced deeper, the canyon walls widened into a massive underground chamber, one that reeked of life and ancient power. Ethan's sensors detected hundreds of heat signatures clustered in groups, moving methodically. Ghost growled low, hackles raised, tail brushing against Ethan as if warning him of the magnitude of what lay before them. In the dim light, the edges of enormous Dracthuan nests were visible, each one scarred from centuries of survival and skirmishes. Ethan crouched, scanning the chamber. These were not remnants, this was a thriving colony. Eggs, juveniles, and fully grown apex predators moved in careful choreography. The implications hit him. The species had never been extinct, merely hidden. Someone, likely Red Fang, had fabricated the extinction story to seize territory and cover illegal operations. The thought sent a chill down his spine. The first detritus of Red Fang's sabotage became visible. Partially collapsed nests, scorch marks along cavern walls, discarded weaponry. The evidence confirmed it. They had destroyed habitats for profit. And now, with dozens of Dracthuan surviving, Red Fang's intentions were clear. They would not tolerate exposure. Ethan's pulse accelerated. This mission had shifted from reconnaissance to confrontation, with stakes he had never anticipated. Ghost pressed against him, massive head lowering slightly, muscles taut, ready to spring into action. He touched the predator's flank, steadying himself. "We finish this," he said, voice quiet but determined. "We protect them." A distant tremor ran through the cavern as the far entrance collapsed, dust and debris billowing. Ethan realized with grim certainty that Red Fang had anticipated their presence and intended to finish what they had started. Ghost's growl resonated through the stone, a primal warning that this conflict was far from over. Ralmor's eyes met Ethan's, sharp and calculating. "Prepare yourself. They'll strike again. And this time it won't be a test, it'll be a battle." Ethan's grip tightened on his baton, scanning the chamber, heart steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. Ghost's amber eyes locked onto his, an unspoken agreement passing between them. They were ready. The apex predator and the human rookie stood together, facing a threat that had survived centuries of human and alien greed alike. And in that shared understanding, a spark of defiance ignited. The canyon, once silent and hidden, now trembled with the promise of confrontation, and Ethan knew the war had only just begun. The War Council chamber loomed above the sprawling city of Karak, a vast amphitheater of polished alloys and shimmering light panels. Delegates from countless star systems filled the tiered seats, each representing centuries of law, commerce, and military might. Ethan stood at the center of the floor, Ghost beside him, massive and silent, the apex predator's shadow stretching across the polished metal. The whispers had begun before the council formally convened. Humans were not supposed to survive in this environment, much less command the presence of a Dracthuan. Ethan's hand brushed along Ghost's flank, feeling the tremor of anticipation that mirrored his own. Months of trials, ambushes, and near-death encounters had culminated in this moment. The Red Fang Legion, defeated in the field and exposed by evidence Ethan and his team had gathered, would now face judgment. Yet the chamber buzzed with doubt. Alien delegates leaned forward, claws and antennae twitching in suspicion, uncertain whether this human and his monstrous companion were worthy of presenting testimony at the highest tribunal in the galaxy. He took a deep breath, centering himself. "Council members," he began, voice steady, carrying across the room, "the Red Fang Legion has fabricated the extinction of the Drakhthoan to cover illegal operations on Karak 3. Their actions have endangered countless lives, destroyed ecosystems and violated interstellar law. Cameras and recording devices captured every word, transmitting live across multiple channels." Delegates shifted in their seats, some intrigued, others skeptical. A ripple of movement came from the chamber doors. Red Fang reinforcements, armed and desperate, stormed the entryway, intent on silencing the human who had exposed them. Panic surged among the council, alarms blaring as the attackers opened fire. Ethan didn't flinch. Ghost growled, a low vibration that shook the floor panels, eyes blazing amber. The predator's muscles coiled like steel springs ready to strike. The first wave of attackers surged forward. Ghost leapt with impossible speed, intercepting them with a force that threw 3 combatants against the chamber's walls. Ethan rolled, baton in hand, disarming a 4th operative with precise, practiced movements. Every motion was measured, instinctive, born from months of survival against overwhelming odds. Delegates ducked, shields deployed, but the human and his companion moved in harmony, a blur of tactical brilliance and raw power. Ethan's mind worked in tandem with Ghost's reflexes. One operative tried to flank him, but Ghost anticipated the maneuver, snapping at the attacker's leg, sending him sprawling. Ethan disarmed another, delivering a swift but non-lethal strike that incapacitated the intruder. Their coordination left the council in stunned silence. What had begun as chaos transformed into a controlled ballet of defense, human and predator operating as one entity. Ralmor appeared at his side, claws drawn, securing the perimeter with the precision of a veteran who trusted but did not underestimate the rookie. Together, the 3 formed an unbreakable front, holding back the attackers long enough for council security to respond. Ethan's breath came in measured bursts. Ghost's growl rumbled beneath his feet. The apex predator had recovered fully from previous wounds, muscles gleaming and scars prominent, a living testament to resilience. When the last Red Fang operative fell to the floor, subdued or retreating, silence enveloped the chamber. Delegates cautiously rose from their seats, awe and disbelief battling protocol and skepticism. Ethan stepped forward, hand resting on Ghost's flank. "The Drakhthoan are not extinct," he said, voice carrying conviction. "They are alive, intelligent and capable of loyalty and defense. They are part of this galaxy, not relics to be destroyed for profit." Cameras recorded every word. The weight of truth settled over the council, undeniable and stark. One by one, delegates approached the evidence Ethan had compiled: holographic scans of surviving Drakhthoan, intercepted Red Fang communications, and detailed reports of ambushes and sabotage. Each piece told the same story: greed and malice had endangered an apex species for personal gain. And through it all, the human rookie had survived, guided by courage, instinct, and an unlikely bond with the predator that stood beside him. Council members murmured among themselves, debating, calculating, weighing centuries of law against the raw evidence before them. Ethan remained still, eyes on Ghost, feeling the creature's subtle tremors of impatience and vigilance. The apex predator had become a symbol of survival, of trust, and of the unforeseen power that humanity could wield when underestimated. A final motion passed. Red Fang Legion would be disbanded, assets seized and commanders held accountable. Karak 3 was placed under environmental protection, ensuring the Drakhthoan's survival. And for the first time, a human was granted formal recognition as a Beast Bond elite, authorized to act as both guardian and emissary for species deemed too dangerous, or too misunderstood, for conventional diplomacy. Ethan exhaled slowly, relief mingling with the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. Ghost nudged him gently with a massive snout, amber eyes meeting his. In that look was understanding, pride, and an unspoken promise. They had survived together, but the galaxy would continue to challenge them. This was only the beginning. The chamber doors opened once more. Delegates, some fearful, some respectful, gave way as the press of security personnel entered, securing the perimeter. Cameras caught every motion, every expression, every detail of the predator's presence beside the rookie. Ethan raised a hand, silently signaling the end of confrontation and the beginning of recognition. Ghost pressed its massive body against his side, a protective shadow and companion. As the council chamber emptied, the hum of distant engines and comms filled the silence. Ethan allowed himself a rare, private moment of satisfaction. Months of trials, ambushes, and survival had culminated in vindication. He had begun as the human nobody expected to endure. Now he stood as proof of courage, intelligence, and the indomitable capacity of humans to adapt and thrive in the harshest environments. Ghost exhaled, a low, resonant rumble that vibrated through Ethan's chest. The Predator's loyalty had never wavered, and its presence had been instrumental in their success. Ethan touched the creature's head, feeling the warmth and power beneath his palm. "We did it, buddy," he said softly, voice steady but tinged with emotion. "We really did it." Outside the chamber, the city stretched in all directions, lights glinting off towers and vehicles as life continued its chaotic rhythm. Ethan and Ghost moved through the corridors together, a human and a Dracthoan whose bond had reshaped expectations, challenged prejudice, and redefined what survival and partnership truly meant. The galaxy had witnessed the impossible, a human rookie standing unbowed beside an apex predator, not as master or subordinate, but as equals in courage, trust, and purpose. And as they stepped into the fading light of Karak's horizon, Ethan understood that the story was far from over. New threats would arise, new challenges would demand their ingenuity and unity, but one truth remained: together they were unstoppable. Ghost nudged his shoulder again and Ethan smiled, feeling the pulse of life and partnership that had carried them through trials, ambushes, and impossible odds. The galaxy could watch, judge, or doubt, but it could not deny the bond that had made them legends. The human rookie and the apex predator walked side by side, leaving the War Council chamber behind, their shadows stretching long across the polished floors. The universe awaited them, vast and unpredictable, but neither fear nor doubt could shake the certainty that they would face it together, and prevail.